how do you determine, whether you produce something internally or externally? And I know, Michael, you're producing everything externally now, I guess, but, at what point would you consider bringing something in-house? And, when would you maybe set up manufacturing of your own, if ever?
Right now we just acquired a new building that we actually have space in there for manufacturing, so we plan to have probably a limited number of machines to do certain parts, and they're just certain longer lead parts that we traditionally have a lot of problems with, and it's because they're low volume, long lead, and probably the lead is long because they're low volume. People are annoyed by that, me included. So that's, and it's the difference between us doing that is the way just running manufacturing in the past. Illinois is not exactly a work comp friendly state. It is a worker friendly state, but it's not exactly the most efficient state to operate in when it comes to manufacturing. That's why I don't see a lot of manufacturers here. So we do have an increasing cost in that, but how do you decide to do it is just on a cost basis. For us to bring it inside is still cheaper on a 2-year basis versus trying to still do some of the certain things outside. Again, it really goes back to the expertise. Does it make sense for us to do certain things? Absolutely not. We just don't have the facilities, the equipment, the know-how is the biggest thing to actually run these things on a long-term basis. But certain things we definitely want to do. And then again, to talk about offshore manufacturing, we do some offshore manufacturing as well, and that's just based on a necessity because of lead times, speed, and most importantly, cost. There's, in our business, the CapEx component, the capital expenditure component is the largest. It's the rate limiting step of any orthopedic company, be it spine or whatever they are. And that CapEx cost is a real thing, and we have to manage that. If you see the balance sheets of a lot of these companies, that's traditionally what it is. At any given point in time, they have a one-time turn of inventory on their balance sheet. So if you're a $4 billion company, you may have $4 billion on your balance sheet, which is, as Dirk can probably talk about, is pretty expensive, isn't it? It really kind of ladens you down, and it really hinders your growth. It affects your borrowing basis, what you could do, and at some point in time, if you have no free cash flow, you can't grow. So those are what those things all come back down to in a long-winded answer.
I think, I think in terms of how do you make the decision, really, I mean, it's partially a cost decision, but it's also a time decision, right? Do you have the internal expertise to do it or not? And how long will it take you to build that expertise versus going out and purchasing it from a contract manufacturer? One of the challenges, I think, that small companies have in particular is getting the attention of the OEMs, and being able to get their product produced sort of in a timely basis and at a reasonable cost, right? Because the OEMs want large runs, they want to deal with the bigger companies, they want higher volume, right? So if you're a small company, it's very hard to get into their, to frankly get their attention, get the time, and get what you need. So, I think that's sort of the opposite side of it, is it can be very challenging. I mean, as an example, just whenever we needed, at AlphaTech, we needed trays, even though we were sort of, I'd say, a mid-size spine company, certainly weren't like up there with the large ones. Yeah, it was a challenge because our runs just weren't big enough, and so you sort of end up in the pecking order somewhere. And that was consistently a challenge in terms of getting our products out on time, being able to get the attention of the outside manufacturing to produce what we needed.
And then another question, we've already probably discussed this a little, but just what are the most important factors that you look at when you are selecting suppliers to manufacture your products? Michael, you want to give that one a start?
It's interesting, Dirk started with that too, is that, when you're small, we started the company 10 years ago and we weren't selling anything, and now we're in 26 countries selling a lot of stuff. And it's very difficult when you're starting out. You really have to work with folks that other people aren't working with. That's the challenge, is you relegated to folks that maybe don't have 13485 or are not ISO 9001 or some type of certification. which would lend itself to believe that you're going to get a consistent product. But I can say that we have gotten very inconsistent product from people that are 1345 and et cetera. I think what we look for are people that are effectively like-minded. They run a clean operation, and we audit every single one of our vendors. And folks that are somewhat similar in thought process and what they want to get out of their business. And that's how we work at it. I think on our approved supplier list, there's maybe a dozen vendors that make implants. There used to be, about 2 years ago, 80, and we had to shave that down just so we could manage that process. And we really pick a few folks, and there's danger in that from our standpoint. We like to run 3 vendors on any given project that we have, simply because we have a favorite, but then a hurricane could blow that building down, and that's actually happened to us one time. And so we have to plan around that stuff. From the vantage of trying to grow that is where we're trying to partner right now. We're trying to work with 3 specific vendors as closely as possible to ensure that we can have a nice, I guess, unaffected supply chain as long as possible.
I think one of the keys is responsiveness and willingness to have a very open partnership, where it isn't sort of, each person's holding their cards close to their chest. I think the more open the relationship is between the manufacturing partner and the company, the better it is, where you can have open dialogue and things can flow very well. Obviously, quality is a key, and sort of good quality systems and all of that. But I think what we found, or certainly what I look for today, is really how responsive are they going to be to us, how willing to work with us and understand what we're trying to do, and view it from our standpoint and work as a partnership. And then when you find that kind of partner, then you end up throwing everything you can at them, right? Because it becomes that kind of a relationship.